Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Derek Brown, the chairman of the Utah Republican Party. Thanks for joining us on today's episode of what we're calling Chairman Chats. And we are here today with Matt Hymas. And Matt is the candidate for the, now what's the number of the school board district?
District 3.
It's three. Okay. So he is running for state school board. And we're excited because that's actually larger than a state senate district.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
quite large.
it
yeah.
is huge. There are hundreds of thousands of people in a state school district.
Yeah, multi-county.
Multi-county. So you go, what is your area then? It's Salt Lake and Tooele, right?
So it's part of Salt Lake County. We cover a lot of West Valley City and then Magna area. And then we cover Tooele County and Juab County.
Okay, fantastic. And one of the interesting things is state school board is something that not a whole lot of people are aware of. I mean, a lot of times you'll ask someone, what's your state school board rep? They don't really know. And yet it's like incredibly important. I mean, the 15 people on the state school board make policy that affects, hundreds of thousands of kids,
Right.
and few people know what it is. And so anyway, I'm glad that you're here today and we can talk about this. One of the cool things is you're an educator. Like, you've spent your life educating. So tell us a little bit about your background. What is it you do, and your experience in education?
Perfect. Yeah, so education, it's run in my family. First off, I remember going to my dad's graduation in 1988. Graduated from the University of Utah with a degree in mathematics. He wanted to teach. He started in Granite School District, and I
teach
remember
math there
he
in
taught
Granite?
math. Yeah, in Magna,
In Magna, okay.
Rock Bank, and I know somebody's going to be like, "Oh my goodness, I may have had him," but
That's
hopefully
and that's
you'll like
always
him.
the case. When
Yeah.
you're a teacher, you
Yeah,
always run into
right.
former students.
But I went to school with him a couple times, and just kind of learned and heard those stories. And from a young age, I liked that. I wanted to be a part of that. And so even in high school, I made up my mind, I'm going to be a math teacher. And so that's what I did. I went to college at the University of Utah, studied. I got a bachelor's degree, bachelor's of science in mathematics teaching, and got in the classroom and loved it. Loved teaching.
And
I
math, you taught
I taught
primarily
math.
math.
Yes, only
So
math.
like trig, calculus, the whole thing.
I didn't get to do so I did 7th through 9th grade.
Okay.
And
So more algebra.
Pre-algebra through and even some corrective classes to help kids who'd fallen behind. We want to get them up to grade level, right? And so we taught some corrective classes, taught some pre-algebra, algebra 2, which I guess it's all changed now, right?
Yeah,
Because you have your secondary math 1.
exactly.
Yeah. So, but I loved it in the classroom, but I love to learn. And so that's one of the things that I really enjoyed, was learning the process. And so after 3 years of teaching math, I looked into administration, and I got a job at a charter school in Tooele County and spent 3 years as a junior high principal there. And then after 3 years, moved to West Valley, where I serve as a high school principal at a charter school.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So you've had the chance to be in the classroom, and now you're basically running the school.
Yeah,
and supervising those who are in the classroom, and I'm sure dealing with students on a daily basis,
Yes.
right? You deal with the some of the more difficult issues
Yes.
in educational administration. Well, I think that's one of the reasons that you're so well qualified for the state school board is you have the experience in the classroom, but you probably see the interplay where the policies at the school board impact the schools in a
Right.
way that few people do.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting viewpoint, right? To be in the classroom, to just kind of lean on your administration, and then to go from the classroom into administration and to see a broader picture of how connected we are to the state school board of education. And it's been kind of eye-opening to see the differences that I really didn't know about as a teacher, right? And some of those issues, and maybe we'll get to those, but testing being one of those.
Yeah.
I did end of year tests because I was supposed to do end of year tests, and I guess it really didn't matter to me what those tests looked like as a teacher.
You just gave them.
Gave them to
Yeah.
the students, and I'd get some feedback, and I really didn't know what it meant. And then
Yeah.
as I stepped into a different role, administrative role, we give the tests to the students, and we kind of have a little bit better of understanding, but we're still not getting the feedback that we want from the state level. And so it's been a different perspective, but it's been good.
And is that one of the main issues? I mean, let's talk about some of the big issues in education. I mean, as you talk to people and let them know you're running for the state school board. My guess is there's a couple of the same issues that come up over and over and over. Testing's one.
Testing
I'm
is one.
sure probably COVID's probably a big one, right? Is that the biggie right
COVID,
now?
yeah, it's on everybody's mind. Yeah, there's other
And you
issues.
guys are open. I mean, as a school, because there's a lot of schools around my area that aren't even open at the moment.
Yeah, and it's we have to be careful,
Yeah.
right? We understand that there are thousands of kids in a building, and at any given time, you have transitions where kids, teachers, they are passing each other by. We we understand that safety is our number one priority. We also understand that education is important and it can't be put on hold. And so,
It's not either or, right? I
right,
mean, you got to
yeah,
do both.
yeah, you got to work with it. This is the situation that we're in, and
Yeah.
we don't get to take a break. And so we've seen schools shut down, and hopefully
Mhm.
they're going to run through the process and get back open as soon as possible. And we support that, of course, because safety is number one. But we have a job to do. We have to teach our kids. We have to get them through that educational process. And COVID, it's I don't want to say it slowed us down because there's really no
Mhm.
time to slow down, right? I
When you're a
can't.
teacher, you don't slow down.
Yeah.
But you've also utilized, I'm assuming, online tools as well, right?
Yes. And what I mean by slow down is I can't take an 11th grade and say, okay, you were in 11th grade last year. Because of COVID, you're going to take 2 years to do 12th grade. Right? I still have the same amount of content that I
Yeah.
have to get through. And it's a lot of pressure that we're putting on our teachers, but they're doing it. Our teachers are amazing.
Yeah.
We've got teachers online who are helping out. We've got teachers who are on campus helping out, and we have teachers who are doing both online and
Really.
on campus. And it's stressful, but they're
How do you
champions.
manage that? Because I know my kids' teachers are real. I mean, it's hard. It is really hard. I mean, when you take the stress of teaching alone. I
Yeah,
mean, for a number of years, I would volunteer 1 day a week for 1 hour in the elementary school, and I'd always walk out and just give the wave to the teacher as I'm leaving, and it was sort of we had this understanding. It was me
yeah,
saying, "I don't know how you do it because that was 1 hour and I'm exhausted, and
yeah.
you got 4 more to go. How do you do it? You know, how do you
Yeah. Isn't
keep
that
them
why we
going? Because
love our
it's hard."
teachers? You know, I know I'm shifting gears here, but I was a custodian before I became a teacher. And for the first 2 months, I went home and told my wife, I got to go back to this manual labor. I can't do the classroom. It is exhausting. We love our teachers. They
Oh
work
yeah.
hard. And we see it on parents who volunteer. They say, I'm so glad you're teaching.
Yeah, how
Right.
do you do it?
So
And so to add you take the normal stresses of teaching and the exhaustion, and then add the COVID dynamic on top. I'm assuming, I mean,
yeah,
you've got a lot of work with teachers that's just beyond sort of
it's not
what you ever
easy.
thought you'd deal with, right, as a
Y-
principal.
right. We could not have planned for this. And we've had to make adjustments. And I think
Mhm.
schools everywhere are making adjustments. We've had to hire some, we call them off campus mentors who are helping bring in assignments for teachers and help them
That's great.
get back to the teacher. But it's still a heavy load.
Yeah. So COVID's a big one, testing's a big one. What are any other big ones that are kind of the perennial issues you see all the time?
Well, as I've talked to people, they talk about choice, having a
Yeah.
choice, and not only a choice of educating their students, right? Because there's the traditional public school, there's private schools, there's charter
Mhm.
schools, there's online schools have grown, and especially with COVID, they've grown more than we
Exactly.
thought they
Yeah,
would have over the
dramatically.
past year. And even homeschoolers, they want a choice, and they want to be supported by somebody from the USB,
Yeah.
right? They want to see support come from the top down.
And so you don't necessarily support one or the other. You support kind of a group of all of them because
I'm
you see all of them now.
yeah, I'm absolutely pro education. I want
Just
to teach kids, and if we find a setting that works and a setting that works for families, then I'm gonna do what I can to support that educational model.
That's
So
great. That's great. So those are kind of the biggies that we see, and like the impact the state school board has on the day to day operations. It's massive, and I don't think people understand the impact that you'll have.
right.
And
It is massive, and it's quite an undertaking, and of course, I'm not on the board, so I don't have that experience yet, and that's where, as we like you mentioned earlier, there's 15 members, and we need to work together, and we
yeah.
need to communicate and collaborate and make sure that we're all on the same page and that it's about the kids, it's about the education, right?
And the nice thing is you have that experience. I mean, for a number of folks that I think are jumping into these kinds of races, there's a learning curve and trying to figure out the testing regime and how does that work? You've done it.
Yeah,
You've been there, you've
I've
done it, and I gotta just ask as well. You're a coach as well,
yeah.
which I think is the complete picture. Then I mean, you've been the custodian, you've been a teacher, you've been an administrator, you're a coach. Coaching what?
So currently I'm coaching baseball. I've coached basketball for over 20 years. I'm a competitive person. I love to not only coach sports, I love to play
I say, did you
sports.
play basketball at
Yes.
your height? I was not a basketball player. I
Yeah.
know that's going to come as a total shock to you. I was a wrestler and a pole vaulter.
Well, I
So
can't do
yeah.
those. I can't do those things. But if you want to play a game on one-on-one, we'll go
I'm sure
shoot some
I'm
hoops.
happy to lose anytime, right? But so right now it's baseball, and you're in the middle of baseball season
We're
for
in the middle of
for your school.
the baseball season for our school. It's been great, but again, along with COVID, we have to be careful, right? And there's many people who in this state and in the country who rely on sports for the next level.
Sure.
And so we want to make sure that we create an environment not only where you're getting educated, but you can go and you can learn these skills and you can prepare for that next level, whether it's academics or athletics or fine arts,
Mhm.
or even in some trade areas, right? We
Yeah.
want to support those areas.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, just we have to wrap up, but as we close, one of the hardest things when I was running that ever happened was someone would say to me, "Why should I vote for you?" And you had to kind of make your case in 30 seconds. It's
Okay.
easy to
Yeah.
do in like 10 minutes, but in 30 or 40 seconds, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
all right, Matt Hymas, why? Why are you the best person for the state school board? What is it about you that makes you the candidate people ought to choose?
Well, one, I think my experience can really help a lot of
Mhm.
families and a lot of communities out, and that's what I'm hoping to do. I'm hoping to get the vote because I want to work for you, right? I don't this I'm not in it for me. I really don't gain anything except for lost time and some gray hair maybe.
Exactly.
But I want to work for the people. I want them to uh, feel comfortable going to school, right? And we've all been to that classroom that is just stressful. We have all had
Yeah.
that teacher where we're just like, okay, we can get through this for this year. But we want to make sure that families are comfortable going to school and sending their kids to school. We want to create a better future for our state, for our communities. I'm hoping to get the vote
Mhm.
so that I can represent families and communities and just work for them.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. It's great to have a candidate who's has so much knowledge in this arena, and there's no learning curve for you. I mean, once you get in there, you know exactly what you need to do. And the other thing that's going to be great is that you speak from a position of experience. I mean, a lot of the
Right.
folks on the school board have really good intentions and are doing their best to make sure the policies impact schools in a positive way. You can actually sit there in that meeting and say, okay, I've seen this policy. Here's what it looks like. Here's
Yeah.
the part that works. Here's the part that doesn't, and you have that experience.
Right.
So anyway, well, I appreciate you being here. And ballots will be arriving shortly. When they do, be sure those of you that are on the west side of Salt Lake County and Tooele County, be sure to vote for Matt Hymas for state school board. He's a fantastic nominee, someone who will represent us well, and fantastically, he's also an educator, someone who understands these issues, and that makes a huge impact. So, again, Matt, thanks so much for being here
Thank
today.
you.
Thanks for
Yeah.
joining us. Again, I'm Derek Brown, the chairman of the Utah Republican Party, here with our candidate, Matt Hymas, candidate for school board. Encourage all of you to vote for Matt when your ballots arrive, and thanks for joining us.